How you doing, everybody? Welcome back to my video channel. Before I forget, um, just want to say right off the bat that I just film these as they come out. There's no editing. I don't do any remixing or editing or anything. I just tell stories. You know, I'm not trying to be a professional guy with a backdrop and all that kind of stuff. I just sit down when I have time, and I'm just going to continue to document my life in music and post them up on YouTube and my Instagram account, which is also called Before I Forget. EYE, not I. Anyway, I'm going to jump right into it because a lot of people have been asking me about the Motley Crue stuff. So I'm going to go through some Motley Crue. This could be a long story, but I've got to go through it all just so it all makes sense, kind of. If you watched my last episode talking about my DJ days, you know from that I had made a lot of record company friends over the years as a DJ, and one of them worked at Elektra Records. So that's how I met Motley initially, and he hooked me up with Elektra Records, hooked me up with Motley Crue. My Motley Crue buddy, the guy I went out to all these shows with, there was always a rotating cast of characters, you know. But it was always me and Bruno Ravel. Bruno and I go back. I think I met Bruno, I was 17 maybe, through a mutual friend that I went to high school with, Scott Levitt. But anyway, Bruno and I just really, we were party guys. We like to have fun. We like to party. We like to go out and drink and party, you know, whatever that means to you. So we did a lot of it. Anyway, so Bruno and I were the guys that were the two main guys that would always go see Motley Crue. So there's 1 week in January, the beginning of January, Motley Crue had just started the Shout at the Devil tour. They were opening for Ozzy on the, Ozzy was on the Bark at the Moon tour. So, you know, we had already had Shout at the Devil, the album. Everybody was really psyched about it, jazzed about it. And, you know, I think we had seen at that time the music video for Looks That Kill. My buddy at Elektra had got me a VHS cassette of that song, the video for that song, Looks That Kill. And we were like, look at these guys. They just nobody looked like that. You know, in 1983, when that album came out, Looks That Kill, Shout at the Devil. When that album came out, no one really looked like that. It was just, you know, there was heavy metal and there was Def Leppard and there was Iron Maiden and you know, but no one looked like Motley Crue. No one looked like Motley Crue really on the first album, Too Fast for Love. You know, that was like a unique look for the time as far as a band playing, you know, melodic hard rock music, which the first album to me is just like pop rock with some sleaze. But so nobody looked like that, you know, so we had only seen that. You know, again, pre-internet, you never saw any live videos of these bands. You didn't, you know, you had to go to the concert or pick up Circus Magazine or Hit Parader or Cream or whatever and look at the pictures and go, wow, look at this. So I had a video cassette of Looks That Kill, the promo video for that. So we kind of like, okay, this is what it's kind of like. So the first show we went to, it was me and Bruno. We went to New Jersey to the Brendan Byrne Arena at the Meadowlands, which is just over the river from Manhattan. So you leave Manhattan, you cross the river, and you're in New Jersey. You know, you drive a little ways into the swamp. And they played this arena, which everyone played. I mean, you know, Springsteen did, I don't know, 1 million nights there one time in the 80s. It was part of the circuit. So we went to see them there. And as you would expect, it was, you know, very busy backstage and everything. It was close to New York City, so close to Manhattan. So there was a lot of people backstage. There was a lot of, you know, and again, we had gotten passes and tickets to my friend at Elektra. We were really psyched. We missed the beginning. We missed the beginning song. We walked in, I think, on Bastard. I think that was the second song after Shout at the Devil. We walked in, the show was great, but it was very, I mean, you know, you're kind of still getting used to what Motley Crue is at this point, you know, what they look like in tandem with what they sound like, which was, you know, they didn't always sound the greatest back then. what held it all together was Tommy Lee. So anyway, we see the show in New Jersey. We go backstage, hook up with Nikki and Tommy right away. What's up, dude? And, me and Bruno were, I was at that time, I was, 23 years old. And Bruno was probably around the same age. We were partying. We came loaded for bear. We had party supplies and we were rocking and rolling with Motley Crue. There's a lot of people backstage. So there's constantly, the people pulling people away and all that kind of stuff. And we were just young and wired and, drinking beer and loving it, man. Bruno and I were rock and roll fans. I mean, again, Bruno went on years later to form Danger and, get a record deal and toured with Kiss and Alice Cooper and a bunch of bands. So, he got to that point in his career later on. But at this point, me and him are fans. I'm still a DJ working in the nightclubs and also working for important record distributors. Bruno is playing in a cover band, doing new wave cover material, which was big on Long Island, and playing all the hot bars on Long Island. So we were doing other things, but rabid rock and roll fans love Motley Crue. So we go to the show, go backstage, Tommy's, Nicky can be really spooky and moody at times, back then. He was just, Nicky had a really dark energy about him for a while. I felt it, and I was really too young to even know I felt it at the time. But looking back, it was kind of dark. Tommy was like never, he was on 10 at all times. It was never calm with him. So, but we were partying, doing lines, drinking, partying. And again, I say this stuff not out of self-glorification. I mean, it was a long time ago. I did it. You can't do these things anymore, or if you can, it's very, very dangerous. And, I'm not preaching and I'm not trying to condone anything. This is just my story. And back in the early and mid 80s, there were lots of cocaine around. It was everywhere. If you were in the rock and the music scene, or if you worked in the music business, I mean, it was everywhere, Every record company guy wanted people around that had it. And, we always had it. But we really clicked with Nicky and Tommy for different reasons. And it was like an instantaneous what's happening. They used to have this handshake, the Motley Crue handshake, the Motley handshake that Tommy Lee taught us. I mean, there was so many steps involved. I could barely think about what it was like today, but he taught us this handshake. And every time we'd see him, he'd be like, handshake. And we'd have to do the Motley handshake, which was funny. But that first night, I had on a Mighty Mouse t-shirt, Mighty Mouse, the cartoon character from the TV show, which I did not know at the time, but Tommy Lee had a tattoo on his arm of Mighty Mouse, like flying through a drum. I didn't know that. And I had on this Mighty Mouse t-shirt, and he was like, dude, that shirt, I need that shirt. I said, I'll bring it to you the next gig. And we just connected, and it was like, again, we didn't get to spend a lot of time with anybody, it was, but there were moments, and, I had my pocket Instamatic camera, and I was taking pictures of everything. So a lot of this stuff I'm talking about now in this episode, there's pictures on my main Instagram, 1985 Road Dog. That's where all these pictures are. So anyway, we leave the show. It was great. We connected with them. We said we'd see them. They were playing in 2 nights later, I think, in New Haven, Connecticut. We said we see them in New Haven. My buddy gets me tickets and passes again. Me and Bruno go up to New Haven again. The two of us go to see Motley. This is 2 nights later. Again, New Haven's 2.5 hours away from Queens, so we missed the beginning again, walked in on Bastard, didn't see the beginning yet of this show, which we wanted to, the whole In the Beginning intro off of Shout the Devil. So anyway, see the show, same thing, kicking, a lot of energy. The energy was incredible. The crowd felt it, you felt it coming off the stage. It was just like this woof of energy of something. It's hard to explain. And they didn't sound really good. I mean, Tommy held everything together. He was an incredible drummer, and he still is, and that's what held the band together. And Mick is, a good guitar player, but was very, in a cavernous arena that, and I would say, honestly, when they played Motley Crue and opening for Ozzy, when we saw them, and this is the beginning weeks of the tour, it's January '84, maybe they were half full. The arena was half full, I would say, Now, later on, I'm sure as it developed and they got bigger, the arenas would fill up more for Motley Crue, but it was about half full, and it just sounded like really echoey in there. It was just like this, and I've seen a lot of concerts before and since, and there was a great energy. It was like a very captivating energy, but musically it wasn't the greatest. Anyway, show ends, we go backstage, me and Bruno, and we go back and we walk backstage, and there's like nobody there. There's like the band and nobody. And they were like, dude, they remembered us from a couple nights ago. And I have to say, Bruno and I were all jacked up and wired and full of energy about what was going on and the substances we've ingested and everything. It was rock and roll, man. It was like an energy. You can just feel it. So they were all, dude, high fives, what's up? Motley handshake, the whole thing. What's going on, man? Blah, 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 blah. So, and they're all four just hanging out there in the dressing room, drinking, whatever. So, Bruno and I, they're like, yo, bust it out. They were like, let's do some powder, man. Let's do some blow. So me and Bruno whip it out. Everybody starts hitting the blow, and I start taking pictures, and we're drinking and passing the bottle of Jack around and the whole thing. At this point, John Bon Jovi walks in. Now, I really didn't know who he was. This is January '84. I think his first album had just come out. We knew who Bon Jovi was because he was on the local radio stations as a local artist because he's from New Jersey. So he would be on the radio station WAPP, or WPLJ, top local bands. They'd put out an album. So, we'd heard the song on the radio, but I didn't know who he was, really. Bruno knew who he was right away. And he was like, oh, it's that Bon Jovi dude. And I'm like, who? So, and he looked like a schlub, Bon Jovi. He had on like jeans and like a sweatshirt with cut-off sleeves. He just looked like a roadie. And Bruno and I wasn't really, dressed up, but Bruno was kind of like, rocked out with his leather jacket and his cool pants and his cool shoes and everything. And I'm like, you look cooler than that guy. So, anyway, Bruno jumped over there and took a picture with Bon Jovi, but he didn't get in on any of the partying, really. He had just signed with Doc McGee for management. He was kind of hanging around and just watching. Very smart. He was just watching everything. Yeah, and then Ross Halfin walks in, the famed British photographer Ross Halfin. He walks in. He gets in on the party a little bit. Mick Mars was hanging out, but he wasn't really into doing any kind of blow or anything. He was just drinking. So it's mainly Nicky, and Tommy. And we're partying, and it's just getting crazy, and we're taking pictures, and, we all split and head over to the hotel. And we get to the hotel, and we see Bon Jovi in the lobby. And he's like, oh, what's up, guys? Good. I'm like, where are the other guys? He goes, oh, I'm not here yet or something. So we just went up to Bon Jovi's room. He had some beers up there, and we were drinking beer. And he's telling us about his record. And, Bruno's talking to him about music. And we're hanging out and whatever. And I was just like, who is this guy, Bon Jovi? I didn't even know. All I know is he didn't look very cool. So all of a sudden, after about, 15 minutes, somebody's pounding on the door, on Bon Jovi's door, like pounding, bam, 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 bam. Let me in, Bon Jovi, motherfucker. We want your chicks. And I'm like, there are no chicks in here, man. It's just me and Bruno and Bon Jovi. It was Nicky. Give us your chicks. So Bon Jovi walks over there and opens the door. And Nicky comes in and he looks around. He's like, you guys aren't chicks. Anyway, he sits down on the bed and we do some more partying and, more powder and more drinking, and we're hanging out and we're taking pictures. Again, these are on my Instagram. We're taking pictures and this and that. And then after a while, Nicky's like, I'm going down to the bar. And he takes off. And we hung out with Bon Jovi a little while longer. And then we let's go find Nicky. So we go down to the hotel bar, and I don't know what night of the week the show was. I want to say it was like a Tuesday night or something. There's not a lot happening in New Haven. New Haven's not the most hip city in the world. College town in Connecticut. So we go down to the bar, and there's no one in the bar. There's a bartender behind the bar, and Nicky is sitting at a far end of the table. He's sitting at a table at the far end of the bar with a girl, and he sees us, and he just kind of gave us eyes, like weird eyes. We're like, what's going on? So Bruno and I ordered a drink at the bar, and we sit down at a table like across the room from Nicky, away from him. So after a while, Nicky, he looks at us and he just starts going like this, like, need some blow, like he was like this, and we're like, fuck, should we go over there? So he calls us over. We go over there and we sit down for a second, and we're giving him some bumps, and we look over, and this girl has got her hand on Nicky, and she's just like, going off on him down there with her hand. And Nicky's just grinning, and then we give him a couple more bumps, and then he just looks at us, and he had really, really weird eyes back then, Nicky. He just looked at us like he was looking straight through you, and he just goes, bark at the moon, dude. Next thing I know, this girl slides under the table and starts, giving him a blowjob. And he's just looking at us, Nicky. And me and Bruno just look at each other and go, it's time to go. We're like, we don't know where Tommy is. Nicky's getting a blowjob and asking us for cocaine. So we'll see you tomorrow, guys. And we were also pretty messed up. I mean, and we drove home 2.5 hours from New Haven, wired and drunk. I'm not condoning this stuff, but this was a different time, man. That's why it's tough to tell these stories, because I'm not condoning it or saying it was anything, but for me and Bruno, it was a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun, and knock on wood, thank God we're all here to live to tell the tale. But anyway, that was New Haven. Now, the next night was Nassau Coliseum on Long Island, and then the next night was Madison Square Garden. So those two shows are stories for another time, but those are the first two times Bruno and I saw Motley Crue. Nicky had a real presence about him. He was very, you knew you were around like a rock guy, like I wouldn't say a rock star yet, but you knew you were around like a real, not evil, but more deeper, dangerous kind of a character with Nicky. Nicky had a look in him at that time. He was, and again, I've read the books, I've read The Dirt, I've read the Heroin Diaries and all this stuff over the years. So I understand where he was coming from, where his head was at that point in his life. Tommy was just like a hyper kid. He was just on 10 all the time. He was a lot of fun, Tommy. But again, Motley Crue changed the game. Heavy metal never went away, man. There was always heavy metal. Judas Priest, Iron Maiden, Scorpions, all that stuff, Def Leppard, all that stuff was 1979 or before. You know what I mean? What Motley Crue did was bring back rock and roll in the sense of like Keith Moon, throw TVs out the window, drink and do drugs to excess, be stupid and crazy, do crazy stuff. A million girls. That was the rock that was missing. That's the stuff that went away in the punk days of 78, 79, 76, 77, 78, 79, into the early 80s, and then alternative and new wave. It wasn't cool to be like that. Motley Crue brought that rock and roll, trash hotel room attitude back, and that's what attracted all of us to them. What you saw was what you get. They were the real deal. In the sense of they lived the life that they sang about. I partied with a lot of bands and a lot of people in my life, and Nikki and Tommy were over the top. Like, I don't know how they're still alive, but they were great times. And again, for me, it's all about the music. You can never bring those times back. You can talk about it, you can watch movies, you can hear about it, but only thing you can really do is put on the album and listen to the songs, and it'll always bring me back to that, because the music will never die. It'll always be there. That said, thanks for tuning in. Instagram, Before I Forget, and my main Instagram, 1985 Road Dog. Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate you listening. I'll be back with some more stories. I've got lots. Thank you.